Diego Pacheco passes a decent level test by beating Steven Nelson over 12 rounds over the weekend on a Matchroom show. Diego Pacheco is a young 23-year-old 6'4" super middleweight. Tall and kind of gangly, but he's starting to fill out. I can see him definitely going up in weight. At the moment, he's at super middleweight. And Eddie signed this guy when he was about maybe 2 fights into his pro career. So Eddie saw something that he liked early, and he's on the American side of things. So when Eddie Hearn done Matchroom USA and he was looking for all of these fighters to basically come through the ranks, fighters that he could develop or help to develop, he came across Diego Pacheco and liked what he saw, signed him, and steadily but surely built him up to where he is at a point where he is a fringe contender for a championship. Steven Nelson, who is 36 years old, he has actually had 2 less fights or 3 less fights than Diego Pacheco. But his rise through the boxing sphere has been as a pro through Bob Arum. And where Pacheco started off fighting on average 5 fights a year, Steven Nelson was averaging 2 to 3 fights a year, and the progress wasn't the same. His level of competition compared to Diego Pacheco's level of competition, I would say Diego was being tested a little bit more than Steven Nelson. But still, they were coming through the ranks at the same type of time on different promotional platforms. For me, Steven Nelson was being held back a bit because of his age. He's too old to be so inactive, in my opinion. And he just wasn't in a situation where he was getting pushed by a promoter. Even though he was fighting on top-ranked cards, fighting on a few Terence Crawford undercards. Him and Terence Crawford are very good friends. They're both from Omaha, Nebraska. They train together. You will see Steven Nelson as part of Terence Crawford's team on fight night when Terence Crawford's having a fight. He trains a lot of youth in the area. He's a very stand-up representative of Omaha, Nebraska. That being said, he is also a tough cookie. He is not going to go out lightly. He was also unbeaten at the time, and he was not trying to lose that. He was of the persuasion that Diego Pacheco is young and he's got time where he hasn't got no time. He needs to win now. So that came out in how he started the fight. I was given the first 4 rounds, I gave Steven Nelson at least 3. So for me, it was 3-1 after 4 rounds. But from round 5 through to round 10, Diego Pacheco started to find his range, because in them first 4 rounds, where Steven Nelson was being the aggressor and pushing the action, being more active and landing more shots, controlling the ring more, Diego Pacheco was trying to find his range. He's tall. He likes to connect at the end of his extended arms. He's very long and rangy with his arms, and his power is at the end. He doesn't like to be close quarters or mid-range per se. He likes to fight at a distance and hit you with his rangy shots, which he does accumulate a lot of power with. Of his 22 fights at the time, he had 18 knockouts. So he is a person that can punch. And where he was trying to find his range, Steven Nelson was capitalizing and clocking up the rounds. And by the 5th round, Diego Pacheco would seem to have found his range, and he was letting go of a few more shots. In them first 4 rounds, he did cut Steven Nelson with a punch over his left eye. And as the fight carried on, you saw Steven Nelson start to take more punishment, but he was being very durable and not really backing down or not being in front of Diego Pacheco, ready to go, having the grit and determination to push on and push through. Diego Pacheco, on the other hand, started to pick up the pace, and I would say 5, 6, 7, 8, and definitely 9 were, for me, Diego Pacheco rounds. There's a few rounds in there where people say Steven Nelson won a round or 2. I don't believe so. I think Diego Pacheco won from round 5 to round 9. He definitely won, and also round 10, in my opinion. So by this time, it was 7-3, in my opinion, to Diego Pacheco. And He took his foot off the gas for the last 2 rounds, and Steven Nelson said, I'm not going out without a fight, and proceeded to push forward and win round 11 and 12. Not being able to get the knockout, even though I saw him stagger Diego Pacheco in one of those later rounds. He didn't get the knockout. Went to the judges' scorecards, and Diego Pacheco was labelled the winner. Now, why am I talking about this fight? As much as I really love boxing and I do like these two fighters, the reason I'm actually speaking on this fight, it is to do with the super middleweight division, where Canelo Alvarez is the reigning unified and Ring Magazine champion, and he is looking to fight Terence in his next fight, or he's looking to fight Terence in September. So where he's looking to fight Terence in September, what would he do in the mean and between times? Terence Crawford actually said he's not looking to do anything other than acclimatize to 168 and fight in September, which means he doesn't plan to have a fight before that. I don't think that's the best idea. What do I know? I'm just a fan. But from what I've seen over the years, I would think it would be best for him to acclimatize to the weight class by having a fight up there, or at least at middleweight on his way up there. That's what I think he should do. He's coming from welterweight and he's now at super welterweight. Junior middleweight. So go up to middleweight, have a fight there in the mean and between times in, like, say, May, June. Win that fight. I'm not saying have a grueling, testing, hard fight. You know, fight the Charlo, the middleweight Charlo or something. Or even fight Erislandy Lara. Pick up a belt on the way. Not to say that you're definitely going to beat Erislandy Lara. I believe you beat Erislandy Lara. I think that's what you should do. But from what you're saying, you're not doing that. You're going straight to super middleweight to wait for Canelo and have that fight in September. Canelo has suggested he's going to do something in the mean and between times. And usually he fights on Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, which is a Mexican holiday per se. So, where Diego Pacheco has just won this fight, and he is number 1 with the WBO, which Saul Canelo Alvarez has. He's number 3 with the WBC, which Saul Canelo Alvarez has. And the WBC president always says that you don't have to be number 1 to fight the champion. You can be anywhere in the top 10. He's number 3 in that governing body. I think that maybe Canelo may fight Diego Pacheco in May. Why not? It's not a fight that he'll expect to lose. He would be expected to win that fight. And he's a true super middleweight, is Diego Pacheco. The fact of the matter is, he's not, say, a replica of Terence Crawford to say, I'm preparing for Terence Crawford with this fight here. That's not what he is. At the end of the day, he might not think he needs someone to replicate Crawford for him to prepare for Crawford, because obviously he just thinks and believes that he is that guy. What it is, though, it's a stopgap between now and September, if Canelo wants to have a fight again. So I'm looking to see what happens with that. But well done to Diego Pacheco, and also very, very good display from Steven Nelson. Hopefully he will get more fights going forward. He has shown himself to be a worthy contender. Diego Pacheco didn't knock him out. It didn't necessarily hurt him in there. It didn't wobble him, shake him all around the place, make him look like he's Bambi or anything like that. He got cut over the eye, but that's boxing. But he didn't show any type of backing up. He was coming forward all the time. And he's got good technique. So hopefully he will get used again by Eddie Hearn, or Bob Arum will start using him more frequently. And we'll see what happens from there on in with Steven Nelson. But this is his first loss, so this is definitely not the end of his career. This is probably the beginning of his career. As a 36-year-old, now he can start making some money. He hasn't been making no money in boxing, really and truly, on these undercards. But now he's made a name for himself in this main event against Diego Pacheco. Hopefully he got paid very well, and hopefully he can get better paydays going forward. But well done, Diego Pacheco. Let's see what goes on with you going forward. I know Eddie Hearn's got big faith in you, and I can see you as a future champion, even at super middleweight, before you move up. But I definitely can see you moving up to light heavyweight and maybe even cruiserweight. You've got the height, you've got the length, you've got the build for it. Okay guys, I'll see you guys in the next video.